Brief tonight. All right, great to see you guys. So, as I said, we'll try to keep things brief this evening, considering the late hour. So, thank you for making the adjustment. We find ourselves on Mem Gimel Amud Aleph. We are on 43a. We are about one third down at the words De'ise min HaTorah. Okay, so previously we've been talking about the question, or not the question, but depending on what stage of time we're in, the idea that fundamentally, on the biblical level, the first day of Sukkot, taking the lulav, taking the arba minim, should supersede Shabbos. And the Gemara is going to sink its teeth into what exactly is going on here. So here we go. To Isay Minator Big Minalan. Where do we get this idea that even outside of the Beis Hamikdash, there is still the idea that the four species, the Arba Minim, will supersede Shabbos. Titania, so it says in the Brisa, Lakachtem shetehei lakicha biyakol echad ve'echad. Wait, so did I? One second. I just want to make sure I covered everything. Yeah, okay, this is where we're up to, just making sure. So again, we're on Mem Gimel Amud Aleph, 43a, about one third down. So we have a pasuk, right? So what's the pasuk? Let's just take a look at the pasuk for a moment. Well, it says, "Ulakachtem lechem bayom harishon." You should take for yourself on the first day. Pri Tadar, Kapos Smar, Vanafetz Avos, Varve Nachal. Those are the four species. Usmachtem lifnei Hashem Elokechem, and you shall rejoice before the Lord your God, Shivas Yamim, 7 days. We have quoted this pasuk on many occasions in the past. Now we're going to do a close reading, and each oddity or seemingly superfluity, if that isn't actually a word, in the pasuk is going to reveal something new to us. So the word ulakachtem, that everyone needs to take it. Lachem mishalachem, lahotzis hashal vesagazel. Lachem teaches us, again, this is all stuff we've learned in the past, that it has to be yours, to the exclusion of borrowing and certainly of stealing someone else's lulav. Bayom, the word bayom teaches us, vafil b'Shabbos, even on Shabbos. Rishon, afil b'gvulin. And the word Rishon, bayom Rishon teaches us, even outside the Beis Hamikdash, we take the Arba Minim, even if it coincides with Shabbos. Harishon, and then with the hey there, bilvad. But that means it only is limited to the first day alone will supersede Shabbos. Now, as we mentioned, there were later gezeras by the Rabbanan, which limited things to the point that we'll see at some point soon that we already alluded to this earlier, that we don't actually take the lulav on the first day of Sukkot when it coincides with Shabbos anymore. But that's on a Doraisa level, it does supersede Shabbos. Now, Amar Mar, Bayom Vafil B'Shabbos. So, wait a minute, let's take a look. Let's go back to that Brisa. The Brisa said, from the word Bayom, we learn that even on Shabbos we take the Arba Minim. Michti, Tilta Ba'almahu. Isra Kra, the Mishri told us, like, do I need a pasuk to teach me that now Tiltal Muksa is Midrabanan. So why do I need a Deoraisa solution to deal with what is a Dirabanan problem? If on a Doraisa level, I'd have no reason to assume I couldn't take the Arba Minim on the first day of Sukkot, then why do I need a Doraisa solution? Clearly, there must have been an issue even on a Doraisa level, even before the rabbis entered the picture, which would make me think that I could not take the Arba Minim on Shabbos. And Amarava, lo nitzurcha elo lemichshire lulav. This is to teach us, even if somehow you didn't go to the Arba Minim sale, you didn't sign up, you didn't come to shul, or you didn't go to the marketplace, and literally the lulav is still attached to the palm tree, you can tear it off on the first day of Yom Tov, that is Shabbos, in order to be Yotzi the mitzvah. And this is in accordance with Rabbi Eliezer's opinion, who says not only taking the lulav, but anything necessary for ensuring that you can perform the mitzvah of lulav is permissible. Now, there's a question, we've talked about this, I think, in Makos, when we learned the second perek. There's Machshirin and there's Machshirin. How far along the line are you willing to go? Okay, I understand. I could take the lulav off of the palm tree, but can I go in my car, drive to the marketplace, and purchase a lulav? Right? So at what point do we say it's too many steps removed? We'll leave that. So my time is Rabbi Eliezer. Where does Rabbi Eliezer get the idea that even the ancillary things that are needed, extrinsic things that are needed to ensure you perform the mitzvah of Arba Minim are permitted and supersede Shabbos on the first day of Yantif? So Amar Kra Bayom. It says Bayom. Vafil b'Shabbos. That teaches us on that day, even if the first day of Yom Tov falls out on Shabbos. For Rabbanan, now the Rabbanan who disagree, who say, no, you're not allowed to do these preparatory things to ensure that you take the Arba Minim if they will be in conflict with Shabbos. Rabbanan Hai Bayom my Avdile. Well, what do they do with the word Bayom then? Mivayile Bayom Velo Balayla. They use it for perhaps a little bit more of a straightforward interpretation. It says you shall take it on the day, daytime to the exclusion of nighttime. We don't take the Arba Minim at nighttime. Rabbi Eliezer, so okay, but by Yom V'lo. Well, Rabbi Eliezer also agrees that everyone agrees that the lulav is only taken during the day and not the night. So now we have an issue. Where does Rabbi Eliezer then get the idea? How does he know that we could only take the Arba Minim during the day and not the night if he already filled in the Bayom slot to teach us something else? So Nafkali Misefer the Kra, he infers it from the last clause in the pasuk. Phrase, I never remember what's clause, what's a phrase. The last few words in the pasuk. You shall rejoice before the Lord your God 7 days. He uses the other reference to daytime. Yamim v'lo leilos, days to the exclusion of night. V'rabanan ime hasam. Now the question is, wait, that's great. What do the rabbis do with yamim at the end of the pasuk then? Clearly it needs to be darshan as well, no? V'rabanan ime hasam. Hava mina leilav yamim sukkah. Malahalan yamim vafiu leilos. Afkanami yamim vafiu leilos. No, the reason they don't interpret that word yamim is because then it would force them into a comparison with, I would think, to compare it to when the word yamim appears in the mitzvah of sukkah. Sukkah is a mitzvah during the day and the nighttime. And we know that a lulav is only taken during the day. So if they were to interpret the words yamim and use that as the source, they would be forced to interpret as yamim v'leilos, daytime and nighttime, and that would not arrive at the right conclusion. So this is just like an interesting debate because you'll sometimes see that debates that take place in the Talmud are actually, they already know what the practice is, right? All these rabbis, they grew up already going to shul, and it's not like they sat down one day and said, oh, geez, I don't know if I'm supposed to take a lulav at nighttime or just at the day. Like, they grew up. This has been practiced for many years. This is, by the way, similar to in the previous parak. Remember, we spent a lot of time identifying what is Arvei Nachal, what are Kapos Tamarim, right? We had to figure out, how do I get to a lulav esrog hadasim and aravos when it uses different terms in a pasuk. Now, do you think until the rabbis had this discussion, they weren't taking lulav hadasim and esrog and aravos? No, they knew, but then we had to kind of figure out, we had to reverse engineer and figure out how we got to that conclusion. So both Rabbanah and Rabbi Eliezer come in here knowing a lulav is only taken at daytime. They just argue on a different detail about preparatory elements, and then they have to play this whole game of how do they interpret the verses. All right. There we are. Okay, we're up to the words the Sukkah gufa minalan. Now that we brought up a potential comparison to Sukkah, where do I get the idea? How do I know that a Sukkah is applicable not just at day, but also at nighttime? You need a Sukkah. The Tana Rabbanan, Basukos Teshu Shivas Yamim Vafilu Leilos. So it says, you shall settle in the Sukkah for 7 days. The words Yamim actually are, like we just said before, inclusive. That includes the nighttime. Ata Omar Yamim Vafilu Leilos? Really? Are you certain that Yamim is inclusive of nighttime? Oh, no, Yamim Velo Leilos. Maybe it's specifically exclusive. Maybe it means day to the exclusion of night. V'dinu nemar kan Yamim v'nemar belulav Yamim. And right, I can make a reasonable comparison here that the word yamim is used for sukkah, and the word yamim appears also for the mitzvah of lulav. Well, we just learned ma lahalan yamim v'lo just as we know for a lulav, it's the word yamim is yamim to the exclusion of nighttime. Avkan yamim v'lo maybe I would think to say that sukkah also, when it says yamim, it's to the exclusion of going in the sukkah at nighttime. Oh, Kalech Ladern Zo. Nemar Kan Yamim, Nemar Bimiluim Yamim. Maybe when they were doing the Miluim, when they were, so Rashi talks about when they were first inaugurating the Ohel Moed there for the Mishkan in Vayikra Periches. So the Miluim and all the offerings and rituals that were done for that, those were Malahala and Yamim Afiu Leilos, just as they, Yamim there means day and nighttime. Afkan Yamim Afiu Leilos. Maybe so too here Sukkah means Yamim and Leilos. And this is the issue that we have because we see one instance in the Torah where Yamim is to the exclusion of night, like a lulav, but then we see it's to include nighttime, like in the case of the Miluim. So, well, which one wins out the day? The thing is that there is merit to either side. Near lemi domet, dana davar mitzvasa kol hayom, midavar shemitzvasa kol hayom, va'al yochiach davar shemitzvasa sha'achas. Maybe it's more comparable to the miluim, because miluim was something that wasn't just you do it and you're done. They had all these rituals. They had to stay in there all the way through those days. And so, whereas the mitzvah of lulav, the moment you pick up the arba minim, the mitzvah is done. But sukkah, we know, you can't just go in the sukkah and then you're done. You're going to have to constantly go into there. There's Teshu Kain Tuduru. So on the one hand, sukkah is comparable to Miluim in one sense. Oh, kilech l'darazo done in davar shemitzvos l'daros, mi davar shemitzvos l'daros. Maybe the better comparison is the Miluim were just a one-time thing that was done at the inauguration of the Mishkan. Maybe the better comparison is Sukkah and Lulav. And by the way, I find this fascinating because I didn't look too deeply into it. You would think the most obvious reason to compare the two is these are both mitzvos that have to do with the same holiday, right? It's interesting to me that I'm sure some Rishon or someone picks up on this, but you would think that's like the most obvious thematic connection. Sukkah and Lulav are the same holiday. You would think they would have more comparable parameters. Anyway, but it's not the case. So maybe because Sukkah and Lulav are not one-time mitzvahs. Remember in Sefer Chinuch we talked about this. There were one-time mitzvahs, ad hoc mitzvahs that were done, but this is a mitzvah lidoros. Maybe we shouldn't learn from the miluim because they're not for all generations, so we can't use them as a paradigm. So I don't get it. All right, both sides, you're right, you're right. So they can't both be right. You're right too, right? Okay. So who's right? Talmud Lomar. Turning to the next Amud. Teshvu l'gzera shava. Right? Logic it's 50-50 either way logically. I don't have a strong svara to be machria and to give me a decision one way or the other. But fortunately, we have a drasha. It has the words teshvu. We have in the first pasuk, it says basukas teshu shivas yamim, the one we're probably more familiar with, that you shall settle in the sukkah for 7 days. But then also in Vayikra Periches pasuk lamed hey, it says upesach ohel moed teshu yomam v'layla shivas yamim, that at the entrance of the Ohel Moed you shall sit for day and night for 7 days. Ushmartem es mishmeres Hashem, and you shall guard the guard of God, v'lo samusu, and that way you won't die. Kichein suvesi, for that's how I have commanded. So you'll notice that they share the word teshvu. Teshvu sitting in the sukkah, teshvu sitting at the entrance of the Ohel Moed. So we have a gezerah shava. And that creates, right, a wormhole between these two halachos. Nemar kan teshu, v'nemar b'miluim teshu. Ma lahalan yamav afilu leilos. Just as the miluim, they had to sit there day and night, as it says explicitly in the pasuk. Afkan yamav afilu leilos. That's how we know that sukkah applies at daytime and nighttime. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of our Gemara for this evening at 9:01. So hopefully this still gives you some time to get some sleep. And next week, I think I sent it in to Matt. If not, I'll have to send another email out. But Gemara will be 8:15 Monday night. God, actually, hold on with me one second. Let me just make before I announce that. Let me just check my schedule. It should still be good. 8:15 Monday night, God willing. So I'll set. I think I sent it to Matt, but just mark your
I
count.
think it's on there.
Oh, it is excellent.
So I think I saw that it's there.
Okay, good. So I believe I sent that in, so I'm glad to see it's there. And if you need to mark your personal calendars, whatever you need to do. All right, I'll see you there.
Rabbi, with the analogy before on Lulav and Esrog on the first day, even if it's Shabbos,
Hmm.
then you can darshan from there shofar on Rosh Hashanah.
Okay, can you elaborate on that?
Well, if it turns out that you can use, where it says you're
Ah,
supposed to take it on the first day and it's Shabbos, so
yeah.
therefore, you should be able to move it to shofar as well.
Yes, Erwin, I'm very happy you brought up that point. That's a very good point that I should elaborate on. So you're right. The question is, are we operating on the D'Oraisa level or the D'Rabbanan level? Our Gemara, this section we just did tonight, is operating on the D'Oraisa level. So Midoraisa, a shofar would be blown on Shabbos. Midoraisa, a lulav and esrog would be brought on the first day of Yom Tov, even on Shabbos. But for the same reason that they were concerned about lulav and esrog and shofar, for the same reason came along the rabbis and said, don't do it on the first day. Don't blow the shofar. Don't take the arba minim, lest you take it through Rosh Hashanah and carry it on Shabbos. And so it's actually the same thing that happens. Mita oraisa, both are brought, but the Rabbanan have this power actually that they can tell us Sheva al Tase. The Rabbanan have the power to be Oker a mitzvah, to basically tell us passively refrain from performing a mitzvah because we have an external and additional concern.
So they
So,
overthrow the Torah mandate.
so an overthrow, actually, I would be a little more precise because their power, they can't tell you to actively violate the Torah. But what they can tell you is do not fulfill a positive mitzvah because we're concerned that by doing that positive mitzvah, you will become very likely to violate a negative mitzvah. So they have
Which
the
the
power
Torah
only
didn't
to
think
tell
of,
you to be passive, not to actively violate the Torah.
which the Torah didn't think about.
It's a great question in general. You're asking a good question about all Durabbanans.
Hmm.
Like I don't get it. If all these Durabbanans were great ideas, why didn't the Torah just tell us? So the underlying assumption, and the Kugel people here will appreciate it, is that the Torah deliberately limited what it told us in order so that the interpreters can come in and help us make further sense of it. All right, there we go. Torah, Mother, Torah. There we go. So interconnectedness. All right. Shkayak, everyone. Wonderful learning together and wishing
Shabbat
Thank you.
shalom.
everyone a good
Thank
Shabbos.
you. Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.